खुद मेरा जो पशु है, हीट वेव के कारण, ज्यादा गर्मी के कारण एक पशु मेरा मर चुका है। मेरा खुद का अनुमान है कि ये कम से कम 40 से 50% खेतों को बर्बाद कर देगी।
हमारे यहाँ कर तो इस जो टेम्परेचर बढ़ने से दूध की भी जो खपत है करीब 5 से 10% लगभग घट जाती है, और चारा वगैरह भी कम खाते हैं। गर्मी में हीट स्ट्रोक पशुओं को हो जाता है। बहुत भारी दिक्कतें आ रही हैं।
ये इससे बहुत ही ज्यादा आगे जाकर के नेगेटिव प्रभाव पड़ेगा, और 10-20 सालों में ये भी प्रेडिक्शन है साइंटिस्ट की कि कहीं ना कहीं फूड प्रोडक्शन पे भारी जो है इसका असर नेगेटिव पड़ सकता है, और भुखमरी की तरफ भी पूरा विश्व जा सकता है।
You just heard two farmers and a dairy owner from North India. They are among many people that I've been talking to over the last 3 weeks about one problem. A problem that is impacting everyone, but the real effects of which very few seem to be aware of. Heat. India is burning. Delhi has been touching 50 degrees Celsius, while towns like Churu and Fulodi in Rajasthan and Sirsa in Haryana have been crossing that mark. IMD's weather data showed a maximum temperature of 42.5 degrees in Delhi on Sunday. All of this week's maximum temperature levels in the city are expected to cross 45 degrees. As I speak to you from Bombay, the first spate of drizzles have started here, but that means the onset of humidity, which has its own very unpleasant effects. Also, there are more heat waves expected in northwestern India. Last year, India was the second warmest and humid it has ever been, while the past decade was the warmest ever in its history. And it's going to get worse. By one measure, periods of 3 consecutive days of heat are slated to increase between 2 to 4 times by 2050. Also by that year, 24 urban centers in the country are expected to breach summertime highs of 35 degrees. Both these factors will have a massive impact on the poorer sections of the society. Between 1990 and 2020, more than 25,000 Indian lives were lost to heat. The numbers will obviously only keep growing. Also, by as early as 2030, rising heat levels could impact 4.5% of India's GDP. And this is RBI data. In this 2-part episode, we dive deep into how rising heat levels are burning into sectors such as agriculture and impacting labor productivity and well-being across the country. We look at how changing consumer patterns, the growth in air conditioner sales, for instance, are woefully inadequate and unsustainable solutions. We look at the heat wave's long-term impact on our physical and mental health. We talk about the abject lack of awareness about the problem at a personal level amongst doctors, bureaucrats, city planners, and government bodies. We talk about why heat action plans are currently inadequate and how they can be made more robust. We try to answer how we can more responsibly beat the heat. Overall, we try to answer the question, can India become a more heat-resilient country going forward? Listen on. It's Tuesday, the 11th of June. It's 6 days after World Environment Day, but there's never a bad time to talk about the environment. From the Economic Times, I'm your host Anirban Chaudhary. This is the Morning Brief.
One thing about heat is that heat is something that affects pretty much every society and social group in this country and every part of this country in terms of geography.
That's Aditya Valiathan Pillai, fellow at research organization Sustainable Futures Collaborative. Before this, Aditya was part of the Center for Policy Research, and he's done extensive work on heat impact and heat action plans.
So you're looking at cities, villages, districts from north to south, east to west. Last year, we had heat waves in the northeast shutting down schools. And before that, we had wheat fields in Haryana losing grain because of early heat wave, right?
Right. And agriculture is a good place to start. Here's Aditya sharing some numbers from the United Nations Intergovernmental Panel on Climate Change.
The IPCC itself predicts that rise could fall between 10 and 30 degrees in a 1 to 4 degree world. I don't think anyone believes we're going to hit 4. I think the current estimations that we're going to hit about 2.7 degrees increase from the pre-industrial average. But that's still a considerable, even if you take the lower bound, that's a 10% decrease. With maize, the conversation's about 25% decrease in a 1 degree warming world. And if it increases, then you could go in a 4 degree world up to 70% loss. With wheat, again, with a 2.4 degree warming, you're looking at a 41% decrease in production, right? So agriculture is going to take a beating. That much is quite clear.
Here are some of the farmers I spoke to for this episode. First up, Chaudhary Pushpendra Singh.
मैं किसान शक्ति संघ एक किसानों का संगठन है, उसका अध्यक्ष हूँ और मैं बुलंदशहर जिले को बिलोंग करता हूँ। वेस्टर्न यूपी पे में हमारा जो है कार्य क्षेत्र है और किसानों के इश्यूज पर हम लोग एजिटेशन भी करते हैं, उनके मुद्दों को उठाते हैं, पॉलिसीज किसानों के फेवर में कौन सी हो, ये सारी चीजें हम लोग करते हैं।
क्लाइमेट चेंज का और स्पेसिफिकली ये जो हीट वेव्स चल रही हैं उनका फसलों पे क्या असर पड़ रहा है, ये जरा बताइए।
देखिए, जो क्लाइमेट चेंज वाली बात है, इसमें बेसिक बात यह है कि जब भी कोई फसल आप उगाते हैं तो उसकी पहले तो बीज बोने का एक समय होता है, क्योंकि अगर सही समय पर बीज नहीं बोया जाएगा उस टाइम जो क्लाइमेटिक कंडीशंस होती हैं उस फसल के लिए वो अगर नहीं होंगी तो सबसे पहले तो वो जर्मिनेशन में दिक्कत आ जाएगी, दूसरा उसकी ग्रोथ में दिक्कत आएगी, तीसरा जब उसकी मैच्योरिटी होती है उस वक्त जितनी फसल होनी चाहिए ऑप्टिमम वो नहीं हो पाएगी। एग्जाम्पल के तौर पे जैसे अभी 2-3 साल पहले जब गेहूं की कटाई, हमारे यहाँ पे गेहूं जनरली जो है नवंबर दिसंबर में बोया जाता है और यानी कि बोने के टाइम पे थोड़ी सी सर्दी जैसी कंडीशन होनी चाहिए। उसके बाद जब वो गेहूं बड़ा होता है और उसके अंदर दाना पड़ता है तो उस टाइम भी ठंड होनी चाहिए। उस टाइम यदि गर्मी पड़ जाए तो वो उसका दाना जो है वो पूरा भर के नहीं आता है, यानी कि उसका वेट कम रह जाता है। और अप्रैल में जब गेहूं पक जाता है तब गर्मी होनी चाहिए थोड़ी सी शुरू, ताकि वो फसल पक जाए और तब उसकी कटाई होती है, थ्रेशिंग होती है। इसीलिए हमारे यहाँ पे 2 सीजन्स हैं, रबी सीजन और खरीफ का सीजन। तो अब क्या हो रहा है कि ये जो क्लाइमेट चेंज हो रहा है कि जहाँ सर्दी है वहां पर अचानक सर्दी बहुत लंबी चल गई या जो है सर्दी लेट स्टार्ट हुई, या जैसे इस बार आपने देखा होगा कि बहुत जबरदस्त हीट वेव 10-15 दिन मई के महीने में चली, अभी तो 2-3 दिन से कुछ ठीक है। तो उससे क्या होता है ना कि जो फसल के ऊपर नेगेटिव असर जाता है।
मेरा नाम विनेश राणा है, मैं उत्तर प्रदेश के जनपद बागपत के ग्राम दहा का निवासी हूँ और मैं मूलतः एक गन्ना किसान हूँ जो गन्ने के साथ साथ गेहूं और चावल की खेती भी करता हूं और उसके साथ साथ मैं पशुपालन भी करता हूं। सबसे पहली तो बात है कि जर्मिनेशन से लेकर और उसके उत्पादन तक, उसके जमाव से लेकर उसके उत्पादन तक असर पड़ा है और बहुत खराब असर पड़ा है। हमारे यहाँ गन्ने में एक बीमारी आती है जो खराब कर देती है गन्ने को, रेड रोट बोला जाता है, लाल सड़न, जो गन्ने की फसल को बर्बाद कर रही है। यदि हम खेतों को पानी देंगे, फसल बचाने के लिए हमें पानी देना पड़ेगा, पानी देंगे तो वो पानी गर्म होकर वो फसल को फायदा न करने की बजाय वो फसल का नुकसान करता है।
और बताइए सर, और क्या क्या नुकसान होता है?
नुकसान, क्योंकि हम किसान हैं और हमारा खेती के साथ साथ पशुपालन भी हम करते हैं, तो हमारे पशुओं के दूध उत्पादन पे भी इसका फर्क पड़ा है और पशुओं को परेशानियां हो रही हैं, पशु बीमार हैं। खुद मेरा जो पशु है, हीट वेव के कारण, ज्यादा गर्मी के कारण एक पशु मेरा मर चुका है। 31 मई को एक पशु मेरा मर गया हीट वेव चलने के कारण, ज्यादा गर्मी के कारण, सहन ना कर पाने के कारण।
तो सर इसके लिए कोई मुआवजा मिलता है आपको स्टेट गवर्नमेंट से या लोकल गवर्नमेंट से?
नहीं, वो अभी मुख्यमंत्री जी ने घोषणा की है हीट वेव से मरने वालों के लिए 4 लाख के, लेकिन वो प्रोसेस है, उसके लिए बहुत लंबी प्रक्रिया है। उन्होंने कुछ मानक निर्धारित किए हैं जिनका पालन नहीं कर पाते हैं। अब ये तो घोषणाएं जो हैं वे घोषणाएं ही रह जाती हैं, ग्राउंड पे उनका कोई इम्प्लीमेंटेशन अच्छे तरीके से नहीं होता।
सर, ये आपका जो इस बार का उत्पादन है वो पिछले साल से कितना कम होगा हीट वेव की वजह से, जो शुगर केन का जो उत्पादन है?
उत्पादन यदि मैं कहने लगूं, रेड रोट एक ऐसी बीमारी है जो पूरे खेत को बर्बाद कर देती है, उत्पादन शून्य कर देती है। लेकिन मेरा खुद का अनुमान है कि ये कम से कम 40 से 50% खेतों को बर्बाद कर देगी।
सर एक बात बताइए, अभी आने पे इतना भारी नुकसान क्यों हो रहा है? ये तो आता ही है सितंबर अक्टूबर में, तब नुकसान उतना क्यों नहीं होता और अभी क्यों हो रहा है?
नहीं, अभी फसल जैसे हम खेत तैयार करते हैं और रेड रोट, क्योंकि रेड रोट जब कोई भी बीमारी बिना तैयारी के आती है तो उसका हम उस पर रोकथाम नहीं कर सकते, क्योंकि हमें पता है कि रेड रोट आएगी तो उससे पहले हम रोकथाम करने की तैयारियां, जो उसकी फंगीसाइड वगैरह हैं या फिर के जो ट्राइकोडर्मा वगैरह हैं और बवेरिया बेसियाना वगैरह, उनका इस्तेमाल हम करके उसे रेड रोट को रोक लेते हैं। लेकिन जब हमें पता ही नहीं है कि हमारे खेतों में रेड रोट इतना बड़ा नुकसान कर चुका है, तो सवाल तो ये है ना।
एंड हियर इज अ डेयरी ओनर।
तो मैं गांव से आता हूं, गौतम बुद्ध नगर जिले की जेवर तहसील से, सतपाल फौजी, नीम का गांव। तो मैं पशुओं को डेयरी भी चलाता हूं, 30-35 पशु हैं मेरे पास और खेती भी करता हूं। तो इस जो गर्मी जो पड़ती है पशुओं के लिए इतनी अच्छी व्यवस्था नहीं होती हमारे हिंदुस्तान में, क्योंकि इनका जो पालन पोषण करते हैं हम लोग, बड़े गरीब लोग और खेतीहर जो किसान होते हैं वो और मध्यम वर्ग, वो ही पशुपालन करता है। और पशुपालन के साथ जो लोग खेती करते हैं, खेती से जुड़े हुए होते हैं, वही पशु रखते हैं। तो उनकी जो दिनचर्या या जीवन शैली जो होती है वो इतनी संसाधनों से परिपूर्ण नहीं होती कि उनकी सही देखरेख कर पाए, जिससे कि गर्मी से उनका सही बचाव हो सके। जैसे कि बाहर देशों में या अच्छे जो संपन्न लोग हैं हमारे पंजाब वगैरह में, वहाँ पर एसी लगाते हैं, कूलर लगाते हैं, फिर भी दिक्कतें आती हैं। तो हमारे यहाँ कर तो इस जो टेम्परेचर बढ़ने से दूध की भी जो खपत है करीब 5 से 10% लगभग घट जाती है, और चारा वगैरह भी कम खाते हैं। गर्मी में हीट स्ट्रोक पशुओं को हो जाता है। बहुत भारी दिक्कतें आ रही हैं। किसान को ना दूध का रेट ठीक मिल रहा है, उसके बावजूद उत्पादन में जो है इस गर्मी की वजह से बहुत कमी है। पशुओं को छाया चाहिए, अच्छा ठंडा मौसम चाहिए। गर्मी में करीब 30 डिग्री टेम्परेचर, अगर 52 डिग्री में हम पशुओं को रखेंगे या मजबूरी में वो रहेंगे तो हमको दूध में भारी नुकसान होता है और हो रहा है।
So to sum up, unseasonal rains and heat are throwing crop schedules awry. Diseases like red rot are impacting production of crops like sugarcane by as much as 50%. Dairy animals are producing less milk in the heat. They're suffering from frequent heat strokes in their hot, tin-roofed shelters. Many are dying. Now in 2022-23, extreme weather events including heat waves affected approximately 831,269 hectares crop area across 16 states and union territories of India. An intense heat wave in 2022 made the government decrease its wheat production estimates from 111 million tons to approximately 105 million tons. My colleague Indulekha Arvind recently wrote that in Kerala, which is facing its first official heat wave, the Agriculture Department has estimated crop loss worth 250 crore rupees in over 46,000 hectares. In a recent report, 2 professors from the Indian Agricultural Research Institute spoke of 7 broad impacts of rising heat on agriculture. They included drier soil, increased demand for water, increased range and populations of pests, and the requirement of higher amounts of pesticides, wilting crops, shriveled grains, and lower production overall. Here's Avinash Kishore, a senior research fellow at the International Food Policy Research Institute.
So the first thing that comes to my mind that this kind of sustained and intense heat wave does is make the life of farmers and farm laborers miserable, right? Imagine working in a field like this kind of heat. Soon there will be humidity too, right? And there is nothing to protect farmers and farm laborers who work in open fields. Many of them are women in such intense heat. So that's the first thing that will be affected, the labor productivity. And many of them will suffer from incidences of illness, and even death in extreme circumstances, much of which will go underreported. So that's the first thing that comes to my mind as an urban person who is living in an air-conditioned environment most of my time. The second is we are already a water deficit. We have water scarce country. And one of the ways that farmers try to mitigate the impact of intense heat wave is by applying more irrigation, giving more water. Large parts of India are still not irrigated, so they don't have that mechanism. Many other parts of India that are irrigated, we are suffering from water scarcity, over-exploitation of water resources, etc. Judicious use of water resources is something we will need, and we'll face challenges there. The third is that there are many areas where beyond a certain level, it's not even there scientifically possible to mitigate the impact of heat. Okay, so for example, in wheat season, if the temperature rises during the grain filling stage, the yield will be affected. We do not have varieties of wheat that are heat resistant, right? Mm-hmm. So we need to invest a lot in research and development of varieties, seed types, and other techniques that will make our crops, and not just crops, fruits, vegetables, etc., resistant to heat. When it comes to dairy farmers, poultry farmers, it's going to be even harder, right? Because in India, most farmers have 1-2 units of dairy cows or buffaloes, etc. Keeping them cool is not easy, right? And those kinds of investment will be needed. And even then, if the heat is this high, there would be negative impacts. And we need long-term investments in mitigation, but also in adaptation to this kind of shock.
So Avinash, what can farmers do to tackle these problems?
One of the things that Indian farmers, and I guess farmers everywhere do, they do adjust. They respond to these kind of changes and make adjustments in time of sowing, time of transplantation, amount of water they give, the kind of crops they grow. These adjustments will happen. But if the policies are aligned to enable farmers to make these adjustments, then farmer will be more successful, right? So for example, if you incentivize growing other crops other than, let's say, rice and wheat and maize or whatever, then it would be easier and farmers would be more encouraged to make the necessary adjustments. If your policy is in place, like procurement at minimum support price, or the amount of money you spend on research and development of new seeds, continue to focus on rice and wheat, then even if farmers try to make adjustments, they'll be hobbled by absence of new technologies or incentives for trying new things, or not having markets for new kinds of produce that is more heat resistant. So that's why I'm saying that we would need long-term adjustments and long-term investments to allow farmers to be creative and more adaptive.
Let's now look at the impact on our workforce. I spoke to some workers employed at Amazon's warehouse on the outskirts of Delhi. They spoke to me of grueling 10-hour shifts, 15-kilometer walks in the heat, and the scorching insides carriers from where they have to offload items. The workers did not want to be identified.
मैं माने सर अमेज़न वेयर हाउस में काम करती हूँ। मैं अमेज़न इंडिया वर्कर्स एसोसिएशन से जुड़ी हुई हूँ। मैं इनबाउंड डिपार्टमेंट में काम करती हूँ। उसमें मुझे स्टोर करना होता है। इसमें मुझे 1 घंटे में 150 आइटम स्टोर करने होते हैं और इसमें मुझे 15 से 20 किलोमीटर चलना होता है। हम पर काम का दबाव बहुत ज़्यादा है और गर्मी बहुत ज़्यादा होने के कारण हम अपना टारगेट पूरा नहीं कर पाते हैं। एक तो काम का प्रेशर बहुत ज़्यादा है और गर्मी का टेम्परेचर ज़्यादा होने की वजह से चक्कर से आते रहते हैं, जिस कारण हम अपना काम सही से नहीं कर पाते हैं। जहाँ मैं स्टोर करती हूँ वहाँ का टेम्परेचर 30 से 32 डिग्री है। अलग अलग जगह का अलग अलग टेम्परेचर है। गर्मी के कारण हम अपने ब्रेक टाइम पर लॉकर रूम या वॉशरूम में आराम करते हैं।
मैं अमेज़न इंडियन वर्कर एसोसिएशन से आईवा से जुड़ा हूं। अभी डेल 4 की कंडीशन इस प्रकार है कि डॉक एरिया में काम करते समय इतनी गर्मी डॉक गाड़ी में लोडिंग करते समय अनलोडिंग करते समय इतनी लग रही है कि फिर भी सेफ्टी वाले बोल रहे हैं कि भाई बाहर टेम्परेचर इतना ही है, अंदर का एक कम बेसी बता रहे हैं, मतलब टेम्परेचर एग्जाम्पल के तौर पे मान लो कि टेम्परेचर अगर 49 बाहर गाड़ी के बाहर है तो गाड़ी के अंदर भीतर 50 बता रहे हैं। सिचुएशन इस प्रकार का हो रहा है, फिर भी कोई सुनने वाला नहीं है, सेफ्टी वाला भी नहीं सुन रहा है, लीडरशिप तो सुनते ही नहीं, बोलते हैं कि अपना काम होने से मतलब है, कैसे भी कराओ, पीएस को बताते हैं।
Many of these workers say that the only places they can relax are washrooms and their locker rooms. On top of that, all of them grapple with steep daily targets, with many of their managers even keeping a check on lavatory breaks. Now, the Amazon India Workers Association, which is a lobbying body affiliated to a larger one called the UNI Global Union, this association last Friday wrote to India's Labour Ministry. Among other things, they demanded heat surcharge for workers, comfortable temperature levels inside warehouses, compensations in case any of the workers suffered from a heat stroke, UV protective gear for them, and a steady supply of ORS. In response to queries, an Amazon spokesperson shared this statement with me. The safety and well-being of our associates is the utmost priority for us. With several parts of the country witnessing inclement weather, all Amazon sites have been equipped with heat index devices that constantly monitor changes in temperature, and our teams implement appropriate corrective measures to provide comfortable working conditions. These measures include temporarily suspending work in areas reporting a high heat index. Our buildings are temperature controlled with HVAC solutions, have proper ventilation, offer adequate provision of water and ORS, and follow job rotation as well as work rest cycles in case of high heat index. We are also sensitive to the needs of associates who may have prior health conditions, and our sites are equipped to provide additional emergency medical assistance to those who may need them, such as in case of a heat stroke. No matter what happens to this altercation between the Amazon workers and the company, the problem is clearly deeper, of scant awareness, of apathy, and of a lack of proper systems to protect laborers and workers. And it isn't just an India problem. According to the International Labour Organization, by 2030, globally, working hours lost due to heat stress will be 5% of total. That's the equivalent of 34 million jobs lost. Saransh Vajpayee, Associate Director at the Climate Program at WRI India, has done extensive work on this subject with labourers, especially in smaller towns and rural areas. Here's Saransh.
Heat waves have a significant impact on India's labour force, particularly in the micro, small and medium enterprises sector, which we normally call as the MSME sector. According to a WRI India report titled Building an Ecosystem for Gender Responsive and Climate Resilient MSMEs in India, which we did recently in 2022, extreme heat events can lead to decreased productivity, increased occupational health risks, and loss of working hours for outdoor workers and those employed in non-air conditioned workspaces. The report cites data from the Indian Council for Research on International Economic Relations, which again estimates that heat waves in India could result in an annual income loss of around 3% by 2030 due to reduced productivity. The impact is expected to be higher in states like Andhra Pradesh, Telangana, and Odisha, where a significant portion of the workforce is engaged in outdoor activities or works in non-air conditioned environment. Moreover, a study by the Indian Institute of Public Health estimated that around 600 million Indians are exposed to heat wave risks from April to June every year, many of whom work in the informal sector or MSMEs.
So Saransh, do we have any data for worker fatalities because of extreme heat?
Unfortunately, accurate data on heat-related worker deaths is hard to come by. But let me give you some estimates from different sources. The International Labour Organization projects that by 2030, India could see around 34,000 annual deaths among working population due to heat stress. Another report by Center for Climate and Energy Solutions cited over 4,000 heat-related deaths in India between 2015 and 2020. Moreover, a study by Sustainable Environment and Ecological Development Society, SEEDS, found that between 2001 and 2017, over 24,000 people died in India due to heat-related causes. And just last year, the city of Ahmedabad reported 25 heat-related deaths during the summer months. This year as well, we all have seen the news of several deaths across country happening because of severe heat waves. And especially during the recent elections, which have concluded, a lot of poll workers also succumbed to heat-related deaths. But the truth is, these numbers are likely underestimated because of underreporting and the challenges in directly attributing deaths to heat stress. The actual toll could be much higher, especially among informal and low-income workers who are more vulnerable.
Saransh and his team have been working with laborers at the textile factories in Surat and the automobile plants in Coimbatore. The WRI report that Saransh mentioned a while back has outlined several recommendations for policymakers, businesses, and civil society organizations to enhance the climate resilience of small businesses. But I asked him, isn't awareness a major issue that he has to tackle with first?
This is absolutely correct, Anirban. Lack of awareness is a major issue. One study by the Prepare Center, the American Red Cross, and the NIT Nagpur found that only 38% of the respondents in Nagpur were actually aware of what a heat wave is, let alone understanding the associated health risks and precautions. Several reports, including the one which came up last year by EcoBusiness, consistently highlight that awareness about heat stress and its impacts remains alarmingly low among informal laborers, gig workers, and those employed in smaller businesses. So this is what we have also observed interacting with the MSME workers as a part of our studies, and this is how it stands as of now.
Okay. Also from the employer side, you have obviously advised them, but before that comes, what are they doing on their own? Are they trying to improve the conditions of their workers? Because I mean, there was a report that I read very recently which predicted that in a few years, maybe all kinds of work which is outside right now and labor intensive work will shift to, post sundown. I mean, there might be a time like that. But aside of that, aside of that, what are these MSME companies really doing to protect their workers?
You've raised a really important point over here, Anirban. A study by IIT Gandhinagar found that only 8 to 9% of the workplaces in India have cooling systems installed, leaving most of the workers vulnerable to heat stress. What we have seen from our work is that workers in India, particularly those engaged in outdoor activities or non-air-conditioned workplaces, are largely unprotected from the impacts of heat waves and other climate-related risks. As for shifting outdoor work to cooler evening hours, some employers might recognize this as a potential adaptation strategy, but implementing it is a whole different challenge. I also came across an article in Down to Earth that mentioned that some construction companies have started rescheduling outdoor work to cooler times, but many informal workers simply don't have that bargaining power to demand such changes from their employers. At the same time, there are issues of safety when the shift is moved towards evening hours. So a lot of these MSMEs employ women workers. So, ensuring the safety of women, it becomes a challenge. So there has to be a policy reform. At the same time, there has to be these initiatives taken up by MSME owners and employers.
Finally, let's come to what the rising heat levels mean for you and for me. That's the middle class. Obviously, the first thing that will happen is that air conditioner sales will go through the roof. According to Chandra Bhushan of iForest, currently less than 10% of Indian households own air conditioners. That number is shooting up by 10 to 15% every year. Here's my colleague and ET's retail ace, Ratna Bhushan.
So Anirban, sales have skyrocketed this season, as we all know. Siyama put out some stunning number, SIAMA, which is the Consumer Electronics and Appliances Manufacturers Association. So they say that demand for room ACs this season could hit a record annual sales of 14 million units. And they've also forecasted, going by sales trends at retailers and e-com platforms, that sales in May alone were up 30 to 40% by volume over last year. And of this 14 million, 10 to 11 million is the residential AC market alone. So this is where the incremental, volumes are coming from, because in offices, in any case, most offices will have air conditioners. So it's the residential market, new users or homes which have had one AC. Now they want ACs in every room because temperatures, like we all know, have breached 50 degrees across so many cities.
But Ratna, will it be easy to scale up? Because there seems to be quite a mess in the after-sales market already.
Much of the problem is to do with the unpreparedness of companies. We've all seen, like, social media, there's so many consumer complaints about week-long delays in installation or servicing. And I'll give you my personal experience. 10 days back, the temperatures had breached 50 degrees in NCR, where I live. And I really wanted to, get 2 ACs fixed. There was some problem, and I ended up paying a local service provider 4,000 rupees to fix 2 ACs, which in normal times would have cost me 1,000 rupees. But I had no choice because, the guys who I was calling from, the established service operators, they were all giving like 24-hour, 48-hour or 3 days, turnaround time. So this is the mess, the real-time mess in the market.
Also, the fact that only 10% households have air conditioners right now, that actually shows massive potential. And as you said, of course, demand is surging. But where's this demand coming from? Is it only urban areas, the metros, or is it coming from smaller towns as well?
Like I was speaking to someone in Voltas, so he was saying that the fresh demand is coming from small towns, which is also causing, this demand-supply mismatch, which companies were not, they didn't forecast it, they didn't predict it.
So to cater to that demand from smaller towns, etc., are companies making cheaper ACs now?
See, there are 2 sides to it. One is that demand-supply economics, like higher demand and limited supplies are driving up prices. But there are energy-efficient models and there are different price income brackets. Also, a lot more investment by companies in making components locally. So which is reducing the dependence on imports and also reducing costs. And there's also this PLI scheme which is kicked in. So we are seeing a lot of companies setting up manufacturing units of components under this scheme. So all this is sort of leading to lower costs. In normal times, it would be, it would be significant. This year, not so much because of the demand-supply mismatch.
What about making ACs? They consume a lot of electricity, so it's not really a sustainable way of cooling our lives. Is that something companies are working on?
I'm not sure that there is it is, those plans are on paper, definitely. But this year has been just meeting basic demand. A lot of it has been just coping with, basic demand supply. So yes, I think, new age models and, sustainable models, all of that have come up. But I think that has been pushed to the back burner. That is not the immediate priority right now. Right now, it is about, just supplying, just meeting the, unprecedented escalation in demand. And also, like Voltas, Blue Star, Daikin, all these guys have reported on-ground scarcity. And it's also to do with some, government blocks, because there are extended lead times for import of components for as much as 2 months. And there are import restrictions also on critical components, and local contract manufacturers do not have that kind of capacity. So, this is also delaying basic manufacturing, like what you're talking about, energy efficient ACs and ACs which consume less power, all of that. Yes, that's there. But it is not the immediate priority as of now.
Whatever be the potential, a reckless increase in the production of air conditioners is clearly not a solution to a cooler existence. As Bhushan said in his article, we need to look at more sustainable solutions, such as planting trees, rejuvenating water bodies, fast-tracking centralized cooling projects, and implementing better heat action plans. In our next part of the episode, we'll discuss the many ways in which heat impacts our physical and mental well-being. We'll also talk about solutions at the personal level and more holistic approaches to heat resilience, like better heat action plans. Stay tuned. You were listening to this episode on The Morning Brief. It was produced by Vinay Joshi, sound designed by Indranil Bhattacharjee. The Morning Brief drops every Tuesday, Wednesday, Thursday, and Friday on a listening platform of your choice. Do like, share, and subscribe. See you tomorrow. Have a good one.